phone off here.
Yeah, I would do whatever you want. If Tom Dreesen's phone rings during the middle of the show, I feel like that's going to be winner for all of us. It may be exactly what this show has been looking for and waiting for. Oh, no, I like it. I like it. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. We like to just jump right into the cold open here. My name is Jay Ryan. This pretty lady to my right over here is Nicole Ryan. We have got a spectacular show for you this evening here in the Cars and Comedy Show on the Late Night Playset because that fellow over there is Mr. Tom Dreesen. Now, for me and growing up with my dad, who was a fan of comedy and teaching me all of the good stuff and where to sort out the good stuff, I grew up watching this man, of course, through my love of Letterman as well. Everything parallels. Sinatra, we're going to talk about all that stuff tonight. All the things Tom Dreesen. We have producer Mike up in Canada, who has recently just had a conversation with Tom Dreesen. I have not seen that, though. I haven't watched it for sake of not wanting to, whatever. We're probably going to repeat shit, but this way I won't care. It is what it is.
You didn't want to taint your merchandise.
I don't want to taint your merchandise. My merchandise is whatever it is. Hey, keep your hands off my merchandise, fella. What are you doing up there in Canada? I don't like it. Anyway, we're going to have a lot of fun. If you can't tell, I'm already sweating because I'm very nervous tonight. More so than I have been in a long time, probably since the Leno show, and for all totally different reasons, obviously. It's going to be a good one, though. Stay tuned. Producer Mike is here, and I'm going to fire up the old opening of the show, so you can go get your coffee and whatever, and we'll see you in 2 minutes. Take it away, Will. We're not monopolizing a lot of it for this, if that's your point.
No, this is just for me. Because I have a condo in Sherman Oaks. After I got divorced, I sold my home and everything, and I got a condo because I'm on the road all the time.
Yeah.
It's 2,000 square feet, but I was just thinking, I could have said something like that.
I'll come help you. I've built a number of famous comedians' studios at this point, so I'm happy to help you with. Yeah, absolutely. Adam Ferrara just did one, and Greg Grunberg just did one. Let's see. All right, what are we doing here? Hey, welcome back, everybody. It is Thursday, July 12th, 2022. My name is Jay Ryan. Nicole Ryan over here. How you doing tonight?
Same.
Rough weekend.
It's not going to get better. I don't want to be depressing, so fine.
All right. Well, on the good side of things, well, here, feel free to medicate whenever you like here. Help yourself there. On the good side of things, we're going to try a new neurologist tomorrow, right? Trying to get the disability going and all that. It's ridiculous. She's been denied 3 times for disability.
3 times.
Meanwhile, she can't walk. She can't use her hands anymore. Everything's going away. So it's kind of a crazy thing. Hopefully when this person sees you. And
It's
then
a step. It's all I can do right now.
And then who knows? Maybe since the last time we've checked in, there's some new protocol or some new thing you can try or some new thing they can prick you with or stick you with or gum you up with.
That's what I'm thinking, and everything's different now. So
Yeah.
time to be different.
Well, on the good side of things, I had an outstanding. First of all, hello everybody. Hello everybody. Hello to everyone on Instagram. There's a lot of folks here. Hi everybody. I know that Shazam Mike's taking care of everyone, so thank you for wrangling that. But on the good side of things, I had a great meeting today down at the Marconi Automotive Museum, where we are doing our first Cars and Comedy Live event, which will be on September 3rd. We finally have a date to plug. How exciting is that? Finally.
Exciting.
Our first actual date out of our dining room.
That's exciting. I love it.
It's going to be 250 seats. It'll be a big ticket type thing. There'll be a silent auction. It'll be us doing a version of this show, a shortened up version of this show with, lots and lots of stand-up comedy.
I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun.
This is so cool.
It's going to be really fun, and it's very real now. As we've talked about it, we've had dates, but like it's cement now. It's actually for sure happening.
It's legit.
Tell everybody. Yeah, tell
I love
everybody.
it.
It's not going to be your typical fundraiser because the whole point about this is interaction and having fun. But bring your checkbooks. For sure. Bring your checkbooks. It's down at the Marconi Automotive Museum.
It sounds like a really fun night. And
It's going to be
I
great.
love that museum.
I do too. If you've never been, they've got an amazing collection of cars, but also, in addition to that amazing collection of cars, they've got some specifically cool cars like the screen-used Michael Keaton Batmobile, the actual Knight Rider car, #1 from the TV show. Kind of neat stuff like that, as well as Ferrari F40 and Lamborghini this and that.
It's super neat for people like me that don't know how shit gets done. Like, it's really neat to see real things because it doesn't look normal.
What do you mean?
Like the Batmobile doesn't look like a real car looks.
Right.
So
Does it look in person to you like it looks in the movie, or is it like most props, it's a little different when you see it in person?
I don't know that I saw the movie. I don't remember.
Okay.
But
Well,
it's a weird car to see.
It's cartoony
anyway.
by nature because I think of
Yeah.
the comic book of it all.
It reminds me of something in Rudder Rabbit.
Oh, yeah. The proportions are very cartoony for sure.
So it's neat to see the other side of stuff. Our business is great for shit like that.
I think it's funny.
I love
Sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. I think it's interesting that you actually care about this side. You spent so many years, Tom doesn't even know this, but years and years as a comedy publicist for Chris Rock and the Apatow people and Will Ferrell, all that stuff. So she was on the road 40 weeks a year opening movies and doing tours and all that other stuff before the MS. So she was insanely active. Actually, I blame that totally for the MS. I blame the MS on that overuse of all the stuff.
Yeah, I wore certain parts out. Often.
Like the wiring.
Yeah, but now I can fix it. I'm seeing how it all goes together now.
Oh, yeah. I just love to see that your brain is spooling in that direction for a long time. You're like, wow, I don't think it's gonna. Now you at least seem to be open to miracles, possibilities, things that could happen out of nowhere.
The landscape seems different now. So and I know more now about myself. I was very magnetic to what people said before, and now I'm like, no, that's not what's happening. It looks like what's happening, but it's like being colorblind up here. It's not the same.
Is it that you're now able to describe it to other people, or you're now able to understand it yourself so that you're able to describe it to other people?
Both. I find that it's finding language that resonates with people. So what you're saying makes sense. It might make total sense to you, but if it doesn't make sense to you you're talking to, it doesn't make sense.
I'm glad we have a comedian here tonight because it's all about communication.
Yeah.
Getting the message through. Absolutely. Well, I'm happy that your spirit seems to be very alive, considering all the stuff you're dealing with. More so even than in a while.
Yes. Thanks, Tom.
That's the magic of Tom Dreesen. Wow. Wow.
I love
Good
comedy.
Stuff. That's true. You got into comedy because you love it.
Yeah. And I forget that sometimes, but I watch specials a lot in the order that they get put out so I can watch people grow through their things.
Oh,
And
sure.
that's what he used to do by going to the comedy store all the time.
You'd watch the growth of everyone's act.
Yep.
Yeah.
What they took out and what they changed and how they played with the audience.
You were so inside all that, you were probably part of the development all the time, too, though, when people are running stuff with all their friends, with all their...
Well,
this is a comedy conversation. We
once
shouldn't
you're
talk too much.
trusted in that circle, you're listened to. And I was no longer a suit at that point. Like,
Inside.
comedians could take off that layer and just talk to me like a person that knew their life. That's rare. I miss it.
I bet. I'm glad we get to do this every day. All right, so let's see. We should blow through some of the stuff here. I think we'll do What You're Watching on Thursday instead, so we can speed up getting our guest in here. GVBC merch, I think we'll do that on Thursday as well. I already told you about Cars and Comedy at the Marconi. It's September 3rd. There's no place to buy your tickets yet, but it will be soon. They're doing the website and all that stuff now. But keep it in mind, September 3rd. It's Labor Day weekend. It's Saturday night, Labor Day weekend. Yeah.
Ooh.
Reggie Watts is already in. Adam Ferrara is already in. We're going to reach out to other people. These were just my friends who were here for the development. Now that we have a date and a time, I'll probably solicit our friend Tom Dreesen here now that I know that he does some stuff for MS. I'm sure he's out of town that weekend, of course. But maybe, fingers crossed.
It's going to be an exciting weekend.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
It'll be great.
So caught up.
It'll be great. And you are the guest of honor. I mean, this is all...
I know, but
We would be doing it anyway, but we really are doing it for you. We spun this whole thing around you.
I appreciate it, but as bad as some people are with compliments, I have to put myself in that category now. I don't want to hear it. Now shut up.
Good for you. Good for you. All right, so let's do some commercials real quick, and then we'll get our guest in here, because I am excited for this. All right. I'm sorry, Instagram. Hello, Instagram. I'm sorry I'm not paying you much attention tonight. Usually we're a lot more interactive. Hopefully. Oh, look, Babes and Classics and Shazam. They're in good hands. We got two producers on the line over there. Fine stuff. I'll hook my eyes out with the glasses and tell you. They say all which separates men and boys is the coverage for their toys. What types of toys are we talking about today, Mrs. Ryan?
We know a lot of people with
That's right.
electric cars.
We are talking about collector cars or anything of value, anything that requires insurance, your home, your business, obviously your car collection. Maybe you got a bunch of TV memorabilia. Maybe you got coins, stamps. I don't know what people collect anymore. Could be anything. But certainly those cars. Licensed in most states, St. Clair Insurance shops top providers so you get the best coverage for your toys. You're going to want to check them out online by simply going to coverageforyourtoys.com. Coverageforyourtoys.com.
Coverageforyourtoys.com.
And when you do that, you're going to want to tell Jeff Sinclair that Nicole says hello, because
I cannot.
sometimes she can't. The MS, it affects your speech. You used to talk a mile a minute.
Yeah, and you could understand me. Now it's like, good luck.
Nah, you're doing a good job. We got the good microphones here from Telefunk, and I'll throw
Nice
job. Give me an opportunity to plug the microphone sponsorship.
Sure. I'm just a prop now. I like this part of my life. It's fun.
You're pretty prop. People like looking at you.
I've heard that before. Now I know what it means.
That's-
It's fine.
It's one of the worst things about multiple sclerosis is everyone compliments you nonstop on how good you look, and you're like, great, I'm dying.
Yeah. I look better than I've ever looked, though, so if I'm going to go out, like, I might as well.
Good for you. What a great attitude. All right. Well, with that, this episode has been brought to you in part by Series 1 Films. Series 1 Films helps automotive brands create engaging cinematic content for social media and advertising to grab and hold your ideal customer's attention. Simply check them out at series1films.com, series1films.com.
Series1films.com.
That's exactly right. And while we turn the cameras around and get our fantastic guest in here, Tom Dreesen, I'm going to play a little video from our folks at series1films.com. See you in a few minutes with comedy legend. Oh, and Letterman's best friend and Mike Chisholm from Canada's best friend. That's what I've heard. Mr. Tom Dreesen. Talk to you in a few. See you, buddy. See you, buddy. Bye. I'm talking to him. Hi, Canada, Mike. Here we go. Good vibes from the guys.
button. Subscribe. We need some subbies. Come on, you can do it. Late night. Woo, good vibes.
What are you driving today? 63 356B. Hey, 111. What are you driving today? Here we go. Oh, this is fun, David. Thumbs up for sure.
This just proves that you don't have to go fast to have fun.
You don't have to go fast. Can you see my smile already?
Okay, I'm impressed.
You don't need to stick it. He's already got it. My car's going to feel slow as balls after this, I'll tell you that. Pedal down. Yeah, baby. 30 seconds. Make yourself comfortable whenever you want.
Before we do that, can I, with your permission?
Oh, so delicious. It's the hot sauce made by bears. Garlic and serrano mixed with love and care. You can put it on your eggs, pour it on your rice. It's great on a leg, it's better on a slice. It's oh, so delicious. It's the hot sauce made by bears. Oh, so delicious hot sauce. Great on everything
Years ago,
except oatmeal.
when I first
Get your
started out in
bottle
show
today
business,
at
I went to a radio studio, it was
osodelicious.org.
brand new,
$1 from every
and the
bottle
mic was
sold
like
goes
this.
to the National
Listen,
Military
I come
Family
busting on the room, he said,
Association.
"Don't you touch that microphone." The unions in Chicago. I said, "What did I do?" "Don't you touch that microphone." And the disc jockey told me, he said, "He doesn't say anything all day long. That's the first time he's got a chance to talk." he gets $36 an hour, and he stayed here for 8 hours, and he told you not to touch a microphone, so he earned his money for the day. You know?
The same thing happened to me when I started out at 30 Rock, where I just sort of wheeled the camera out of the way because local television, everybody, all hands on deck, everybody knew how to do all the jobs. And I wheeled it right out of the way because I knew how to work the pedestal or whatever. And somebody walked over to me and go, "What on earth do you think you're doing?"
Yeah.
Luckily, I was a little kid, so they just straightened me out instead of getting
Isn't that
mad.
something?
But,
Yeah.
oh my gosh. All right, so that's it. Here, look. There's music and everything. That's it. We're back. We're sitting here. I'm really nervous. I don't even know where to begin. Tom Dreesen, thank you for being here.
Oh, you're more than welcome. But I am so impressed with Nicole. You know, we talked off stage here before I came out here that I've been in show business 52 years. This is my 52nd year in show business. Every comedian has a charity, you know, in their lifetime. Most of them do, or most entertainers do. And it's usually something that's close to them. And my sister Darlene had multiple sclerosis. She had MS. And so every year I would go back. I'm going to even digress before that. My sister Darlene was the most beautiful human being I'd ever met in my life. She was 18 months older than I was. We had 8 kids, lived in a shack. 5 of us slept in one bed at one time. We had no bathtub, no shower, no hot water. That's the way I was raised. Both my parents were alcoholic at one time. My sister Darlene I was third. She was second. My older brother Glenn was first. But she watched over all of us all the time. She never complained. I never heard her complain once in my life. She worked at age 14 in a grocery store, made $1 an hour, but never got to see any of that money because she'd bring home groceries for us. I set pins in bowling alleys. I caddied in the summertime. I shined shoes and sold newspapers, all to help feed my brothers and sisters. And Darlene was there with me for almost all those things. If I close my eyes, I can see her holding my hand, walking across the street. She was 18 months older than me, and never heard her complain. She went to church 6 days a week. Only one day she didn't go was Saturday. And when I was an altar boy, she would come when I was, serving. Anyhow, I'm saying all this about this beautiful person. I never heard her complain in her life. She, she had just so many struggles. But she got married, and at an early age, she came down with MS. We didn't know what it was. It was 2 initials. I had no idea what MS meant. But anyhow, I never heard her complain. And I was performing in Chicago at Chicago Theater, and I went to see her. At that time I was out here doing the Tonight shows and all that stuff. She was my biggest fan, by the way. But anyhow, I go to visit her one day, and I said to her husband, he was out in the front lawn, I said, "Where's Darlene?" He said, "She's inside." Well, I went inside. She was in a wheelchair at the time and had lost her balance and was, cramped down between the almost the floor and the wheelchair.
It slipped out of the wheelchair.
And I righted her up. And again, never heard her complain. She turned on me and she said, "Don't you ever, ever come in here talking to me about positive mental attitude. Again, I give motivation talks, on 4 subjects: perception, visualization, self-talk, and develop a sense of humor. She said, don't you ever come in here talking to me about positive mental attitude again. She said, don't talk to me about that. She said, and don't talk to me about God anymore. I'm taken aback by this. She said, you've known me all my life. What did I ever do to God that God would punish me like this? And I didn't have an answer. I was stunned because she never, ever complained. And I said, sis, I don't know. I really don't know. And a moment later, she got her balance back, and she said, Tommy, I'm so sorry. I lost my faith. I'm so sorry. I said, no, don't apologize. If anybody has a right to lose their faith, you do. But I came back here to California, and I used to run in those days a mile every day, and over in Sherman Oaks Park and Hazeltine. One day I was running, and I said, I got to do something to show her not only that I care, but a lot of other people care about those with multiple sclerosis in our society. And I thought, I know what I'll do. I'll run 26 miles. And I could only run a mile at that time. I made up my mind, I'm going to run 26 miles, and I'll call it 26 miles for Darlene. And then I'll have people pledge money for every mile I run. And I got all my celebrity friends to come back to Chicago with me. I was formerly in the Jaycees. That's another story.
Junior Chamber of Commerce. So was I.
You were too. Okay.
Yeah. I got JC of the Year one year when I was turned 18 years old.
So was I.
Amazing.
And that's how I got. By the way, that's how I got in the show business. That's how I'll explain that later. How I got in the show business through the Jaycees. But I went back, and of course the Jaycees were the first people I got in touch with. They said, I want to run 26 miles. I want you to be sanctioned at the Jaycees. And I would bring celebrities in. American Airlines, I got a hold of them. I start really hustling. They flew my celebrities in. Frankie Avalon, Tony Danza, Smokey Robinson, Eddie Marinaro, Tim Reid, my former comedy partner, Betty Thomas from
Tim Reid, KRP? Tim Reid? I love it.
Well, we were America's first black and white comedy team. I'll explain that to you later, too. But, so I got all these celebrities to come in, Johnny Dark, my comedy buddy, and all of them to run part of the way with me. And I got the Chicago Bears, Tim Reitman, Jim McMahon, Tom Thayer, guys from Chicago Bears, and the Cubs, Mark Grace.
Wow.
They would run a mile or 2 miles or a block, whatever they could run with me, And Smokey Robinson's the only one who ran all 26 miles with me.
Gee whiz.
2 years in a row. Yeah. Anyhow, so that being said, that we even wrote a song for Darlene. Frankie Avalon's conductor wrote the song, and then another country singer guy wrote a song for named Rick. Anyhow, he wrote a song called A Day for Darlene, and Smokey and Frankie sang a song called Don't Give Up. And it was to all MS patients around the country. And we got the Illinois Philharmonic at the end of the run one year to come, and like 20,000 people. And we sang that song to Darlene. And they brought her out in a van at that time. And I stood with her while they were singing the song. And the chorus was, Connie Stevens was there. I'm trying to think of all these celebrities. They're singing, Don't Give Up, Don't Give Up. The road is lonely, and you keep saying to yourself, if I could only find the courage to win. But don't go grieving, because today is your day. Don't give up was the chorus. So now all these people were singing, and I said to Darlene, you remember you asked me years ago, why you? And I don't know why you to this day, but I know because of you, 20-something thousand people are singing today because of you. She said, no, Tommy, not because of me, because of you. I said, no. Because of you, because of all the love you gave me, all those things we learned in church, cast your bread, what you sow you shall reap. All that love you gave me is coming back to you now. And I'll close with this, but why I wanted to hug Nicole. Whenever I give motivation talks, I always talk about, we live in a society where we call people champions that hit baseballs far. With this God-given gift they had, they took it to the maximum. I'll give them credit. They hit baseballs far, or they score touchdowns, or they score goals, or they score baskets, and we call them champions. But in my humble opinion, a champion is someone who does their best when things are at their worst. Nicole's a champion.
Oh, thanks.
Now, watching you.
Correct. That is a correct answer.
watching you laughing about and talking about and laughing about. The greatest gift that God can bestow upon a human being is a sense of humor. In my humble opinion, a sense of humor is not when you have the ability to laugh at other shortcomings or misfortunes. When you have the ability to laugh at your own, that's a great gift. And people get comfortable around you. People would, MS patients, in my 52 years in show business, I've got a condo full of pictures of all the wonderful things that happened in my life. The one I treasure the most is me standing in front of MS patients a gathering in Chicago, and they're laughing. They were laughing. And I treasure that picture more than any. And I think I tell every comedian, that's where we should go. Laughter should go where laughter is needed the most. Okay, we're off of all this.
God, no, man. What a fantastic. I mean, I can tell Mike Chisholm's probably crying up in Canada right now. He's Mr. You too, right? Getting you in the heartstrings for sure. What a way to start. Not cars or comedy, but right from the heart.
Well, it isn't. I tell you, it isn't easy for me to talk to her.
This is where I'm going to resist putting a slow push on you here, Tom.
I didn't think that I was going to go there because because for years I've held that back. But when I see her, I think of my sister.
Oh, geez.
And her courage moves me to tears. Nicole's courage, sometimes we tear up because of joy and laughter, and sometimes just because we tear up because we're sitting in the presence of something of greatness, really, truly greatness. She will inspire more people through what you're doing with her. Inspire more, and there's so many people out there that need her inspiration, and maybe that's why God said, Nicole, I'm going to choose you to cheer up my less fortunate children.
I'll take it. Like, that's the best explanation I've heard so far.
Okay. Anyhow, now I want to tell you about my JC background.
I joined because I wanted to build haunted houses, and they did the haunted house and the hayride
right,
and everything.
yeah.
So you mentioned the entertainment industry. I got a little bit of how did you do all this from that as well?
What community? Where did you join?
Outside in New York City, in Bethel, Connecticut, is where the Jaycees were.
Is
But
that
I
right?
grew up in Wilton and Danbury, Connecticut. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, mine was, I came out of the service. I had 8, I grew up poor. I spent 4 years in the military. I came back, and I must have had 8 jobs in a year.
What part of where?
South side of Chicago, a suburb
Chicago,
called Harvey,
that's right.
Illinois. And I had a wife, 3 kids. And one day my older brother said to me, the Jaycees in Harvey, Illinois had fallen by the wayside for like 8-10 years, and they were going to open up that chapter again. So I joined the Jaycees. In those days, young men, 18 to 36.
Right.
After that, you're an exhausted rooster, as you know.
Yeah.
That's what they.
Our Jaycees pretty much sat around and drank beer. So, I mean, you kind of grew out of that too.
But anyhow, so now at that time, I'm wandering from job to job. I've got a wife and 3 kids, and every job I got, I wasn't fulfilled. I said, man, this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. I'd be in the bar with my buddies at 2 o'clock in the morning after a JC meeting. I'd be looking around and saying, I don't belong here, but I didn't know where I belonged.
Right.
I just couldn't find this fulfillment. But I was working on all the JC projects that they have, and at JCs, as you know, attack the problems of the community, and in doing so, taught you leadership training program, how to serve on a committee, how to chair a committee, subcommittees, how to how to speak in front of an audience, how to conduct a meeting.
I learned almost everything I know about charity from the Jaycees.
Robert's Rules of Order. Anyhow, so I began to pray. I started saying, God, what is it I'm supposed to be doing? This can't be it, sitting in this bar. I wrote a drug education program teaching grade school children the ills of drug abuse with humor. At that time, they weren't teaching drug education at a college or a high school level, let alone at an elementary school level. It was for 8th graders. I wanted to get them before they went to high school. We found out in many cases we were too late, that they were learning about it in 5th and 6th grade at the time. However, I wrote this drug education program, and I wanted to run it as a JC project. So one night at one of our JC meetings, I'm proposing this to the general membership to get the JCs to sanction this drug education program. And after it was done, a new member comes up to me, a young black guy, and said to me, hi, I just graduated from Norfolk State College. E.I. DuPont recruited me into Chicago, and I joined the JCs. I'd like to work with you on that project. I said, gee, I'm sorry. I've already got a guy. Again, how fate has it. I'd been praying, God, what is it I'm supposed to be doing? The next day, a white guy who was supposed to help me, a guy named John DeBoer, calls me the next day and said, Tom, I got a job, and I can't help you. I said, gee, what was that black guy's name? Oh, yeah, Tim Reid. So Tim and I worked on a program. We rehearsed the program. We got it going. It goes into, we went into grade schools. The program became an instant success because, again, a blessing. When I walked in that classroom, the moment they saw Tim and I, a young white guy and a young black guy, they were young, black and white. These kids were black and white. Mm-hmm. And I thought, wow, 2 white guys would not have been as effective when we got their attention immediately. Mm-hmm. And we played off, and when we got the kids laughing, we'd play records and get the kids laughing, and then we'd plant the seeds of the ills of drug abuse.
Make them like you first, right?
Yeah, same as stand-up. And the next thing you know, the program goes on about a year, and Jaycees began to put it in all of their publications, and in 22 states, 50 states and 22 foreign countries where Jaycees were, in their publications on how to teach a drug education program at an elementary school level. One day...
How old were you at this point?
In my 20s and 25.
That's still pretty damn good.
One day we finished a classroom lecture, had the kids laughing. The kids are leaving the classroom, and a young girl comes up, 8th grade girl. She walked by. She said, "You guys are funny. You ought to become a comedy team." And the thought of a black-white comedy team intrigued us because no one had ever done that before. So we became America's first black and white comedy team, and history now shows we were also the last. There's never been one since. And at that time, there were no comedy clubs. So we worked all black clubs in the North and the South, what they affectionately call the Chitlin Circuit, black-owned, black-operated nightclubs. And we worked all white nightclubs, still the Playboy Circuit and stuff. But we struggled all over the country for 6 years. And the team, it was the backdrop of that era. Martin Luther King had just been assassinated. Bobby Kennedy was assassinated. In 1969, Tim Reid and I went on stage for the first time. There were Martin Luther King, like I said, was assassinated, but there were riots in every major city in America, as well as the Vietnam War. They were protesting the Vietnam War. And I had just gotten out of the service. Tim just got out of college. And we were going across the land trying to make people laugh amidst all this backdrop of tension and riots and what have you. Fourth time on stage, a guy put a lit cigarette out in Tim's face.
Oh, my God.
And then tried to beat the hell out of me. I boxed when I was in the Navy, but this guy outweighed me by 100 pounds, One time at University of Illinois, a guy hit me in the face with an ice ball. Interesting thing about racism in those days, if there was a black guy who hated white people, hated them with a passion, he wasn't mad at me. He was mad at Tim for being with me. If there was a white guy who hated black people, he wasn't mad at Tim. He was mad at me for being with Tim. So it was, but so we stayed together for years, and the team finally split up, and Tim went on to become Venus Flytrap on WKRP Cincinnati. He became,
I grew up with that.
On Sister Sister, he was the father. He was on Simon and Simon. He did more sitcoms than probably any other actor out there. We're still the best of friends. His children call me Uncle Tom.
I have that there, which is an American comedy in black and white.
That's right.
And Tom.
Those are some of the reviews from we wrote a book in 2005 called Tim and Tom, an American Comedy in Black and White. And then I recently wrote a book that covers a lot of that too, but called Still Standing, My Journey from Streets and Saloons to the Stage and Sinatra. My book is now on Amazon, and this is a cheap plug. It's got over 400 5-star reviews. I'm really excited about the book. The book is getting great reviews. Anyhow, that's my JC story. That's my MS story.
And then that's you guys back in the day.
That's us back in the day. Yeah.
Look at those collars.
Yeah, we were.
That dates the photo, right?
You want to know something about that photo that was taken at a place called Mr. Kelly's in Chicago? When you made it to Mr. Kelly's, you made the big time in Chicago.
Really?
That was the club. All the clubs we worked on the south side and the north side. When you got to Mr. Kelly's, that's where Barbara Streisand worked. That's where Bette Midler. We worked with Bette there. But
was it a larger stage room, or was it just the fact that this place had cachet?
It was a dinner club. Today, if you go to Chicago, it's Gibson's Steakhouse, but that was Mr. Kelly's, and it was an amazing place. When you made it there, you made it to the big time. But that picture you saw there, Tim Reid and I were doing a routine. I was interviewing the first black president of the United States. Oh. And we did a whole funny routine on that. What would you do?
Well, you set that up then, I guess.
Yeah. Well, by the way, when Dave Letterman read our book, read the manuscript of our book, he said, "You guys should call your book Before Our Time, because you're way before your time." That's a classic example.
That's an interesting note.
Yeah.
You didn't take it though, I guess.
No, the publisher didn't. I took it, but in fact, I wanted. They may do a mini series on us, and I wanted it to be called Before Our Time.
Oh, I like that.
But I'm interviewing the first black president. I said, "What would you do? What's the first thing you do as the president of the United States?" He said, "First thing I do is have Congress enact a law that that dead people are not allowed to vote in Chicago." I said, "Okay." I said, "What's the second thing you do?" He said, "The second thing I do is enact a law that live people are not allowed to vote in Mississippi."
You flip the coin, sure, absolutely.
Yeah. That's kind of true. We were way before our time. We did in those days. The politically correct police would run us out of town on a rail right now.
Really?
They would run us out of town on a rail because we right in the face of all the stereotypes. We did everything we did. We didn't do everything about race. We did a lot of funny routines that had nothing to do with race. But again, In 1969, think about what I'm telling you. This was the mantra across the land. We need better race relations. We need more discourse among the races. Guess what they're saying 50 years later? We need more discourse among the races.
Sounds familiar.
We need better race relations. Tim Reid and I were having race relations. In order to have race relations, you got to have race relations. And Tim and I were having race. We were not that we were talking about race, but we were a black guy and a white guy on stage having a lot of fun together.
Yep.
We were
Showing
having
people that it was okay.
Yeah, we were having a relationship they weren't having. We went everywhere there was racial tension. You know, we did 11 prisons in 1 year. We did the county jail in Chicago 3 times. Any college
Sounds like a record. We did 11 prisons in 1 year.
Yeah. Colleges, high schools, anywhere there's racial tension. We didn't go preach. We just went to make people laugh.
Right.
And
But it bleeds over, hopefully.
I can't tell you, and Tim will tell you the same thing. All my years in show business, all the things he's done, the things I've done, awards and all that stuff, are meaningless when I tell you that this is the greatest thing that ever happened to Tim and I. I can't tell you how many times at these high schools, colleges, prisons, or a black guy would come up to us afterward and he'd say, you know, I have a white friend that I like to reach out to, but if I do, the brothers are going to wear me out. But after watching you and Tom today, he'd tell Tim, I'm going to reach out to my white friend. Then a white kid would come up and say, you know, I got a black friend. Again, this is 1969. Sure. And the Civil Rights Act was passed in 64. We were 5 years removed from that. But a white kid would say the same thing. He'd say, you know, I got a black friend that I really like. I'd like to reach out to him, but the white guy's going to call me names. But after watching you and Tim today, I'm going to reach out to my black friend. That happened to us more than you'll ever know, you know.
Not you guys, but clearly you paved the way for it. One of my favorite movies growing up, still to this day, Silver Streak, because of Gene Wilder, Richard Pryor, and that relationship that they both had.
And by the way, we wrote a routine. We were doing a routine where Tim was teaching me how to be black long before that movie ever came out. We did it.
The scene where the Al Jolson
no
scene,
question
yeah.
about it. We did that. We did it in club after club after club and Chitlins. And Richard knew that.
That's probably where he got it.
Well, I don't know that they did or they didn't, but we were doing that routine on stage. Conversely, I had 8 brothers and sisters and grew up in a predominantly black neighborhood. We were in a poor south side of town, right? Now, whenever we do a talk show, when Tim Reid and I started out, if it'd be a morning show in some city, they'd have one camera, right? And the guy would say, I'm about to introduce a comedy team here. One of them had 8 brothers and sisters, grew up in a shack, grew up poor on the south side of Chicago, and the camera would zoom to Tim. He'd see the other is an only child, college graduate from the South, and the camera would come to me.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
I love it. And would they ever be corrected, or would the audience get a moment to feel foolish?
We would wait till we got going, and we'd have fun with it, you know. But that's the stereotype, you know.
I love it. I absolutely love it. How on this comedy journey did you then meet David Letterman, and then you guys became buddy before you both sort of seemed to again split up and do your own things and then go succeed?
When the comedy team broke up, you know, it was 1975. Anywhere you went in America in 1975, people say, what do you do for a living? You say, I'm a stand-up comedian. The next question out of their mouth was, oh, yeah? You ever been on Johnny Carson? If you hadn't been on Johnny Carson in the eyes of America, you just weren't a comedian. You might want to be one. You might going to be one, but you weren't one now. So Freddie Prinze does one appearance on The Tonight Show. He gets a sitcom the next day. So all the comedians migrated out to the West Coast because Johnny Carson had The Tonight Show in New York till 1972. 1975, he came out here.
Yep.
So all the comedians. And there was only one game in town in those days, was the Comedy Store. That was the game. There wasn't the Improvisation or Laugh Factory in those days.
Right.
Comedy Store on Sunset Boulevard. And comedy became the rock and roll of the 70s. That's where everybody went. You know,
It's Mitzi's Club at that point, but is Sammy still alive?
Sammy was alive till just a few years back.
I'm sorry, but involved in the running.
No,
of
he
the,
wasn't involved in running
sorry.
it. But Sam, when I first went there, Tim Reid and I were working the Playboy circuit. We were working the L.A. Playboy Club.
Okay.
And I went over to, because I heard about this place, the Comedy Store, and Sammy was running it then. When Sammy was running it, any of his comedy friends could get up and do an hour, 45 minutes. Mitzi turned it into a Ford assembly line. Her brilliance, you know, if you would have told me when I first started on comedy, we want you to go on tonight, Tom, you're going to be the 7th of the 8th comic on, I'd say, why would I do that? Why would I follow 7 comedians? Are you out of your mind? You know, comedians, put a singer on, I'll work with the singer. Because we worked nightclubs in those days. But she turned it into the Ford assembly line, you know, 3 shows a night, 10 comics on each. And it was a huge success. And now all the, you know, comedy was the rock and roll of the 70s. Now all of the talent coordinators came there to look for their shows. I did one appearance on The Tonight Show. The next day, my whole life changed. I eventually did 61 appearances on the Tonight Show, but my
On
first
the Johnny
appearance-
show.
well, also I did about 10 with Jay. Too,
Okay.
My point was that after that show, at the Tonight Show, in those days, 26.5 million people watched that show a night. One appearance, your life changed. I did one appearance. The next day, Lee Curlin from CBS saw me on that show and signed me to a development deal. I had a wife and 3 kids. I was on my rear end, paying $225 a month rent in Van Nuys, and I couldn't even afford that. But the next day, after the Tonight Show, I get a check for $10,000 from CBS and $1,850 a month for 1 year. They signed me to a development deal. Now I could pay my rent. I could concentrate on comedy. But after that, this is what happened. I'm doing Dinah Shore, Merv Griffin, Mike Douglas, Johnny Carson, Midnight Special, Rock Concert, Soul Train, American Bandstand. I was doing $20,000 Pyramid, Hollywood Squares. All those shows from doing that first Tonight Show start calling you. And it
Well,
was,
you delivered on the Tonight Show too. You weren't just on it. I
Well-
mean, it was a good appearance too, right?
Yeah, but my first Tonight Show was incredible. It was just hard to describe. I can't tell you. You're standing behind it. I got bumped 3 times. They'd go there. They'd put me in makeup, to put me up in the green room, bring me down, and put me in my dressing room, bring me down to the green room, and I'm waiting to go on. They'd come and say, "We ran out of time. I'm sorry. Come back next week." I come back next week. I'm in makeup, into my dressing room, down in the green room. We ran out of time. Come 3 times in a row. The 4th time I'm in makeup, Fred DeCordova, the producer, walked in the makeup room. He said, "I got bad news for you." I said,
sorry,
"What?" He
kid.
said, "You're going on tonight."
Oh, nice.
Yeah, you're going on tonight. Now you get a lump in your throat about the size of a grapefruit. Because not only did everybody in our business watch that show, but my mother had everybody back in Harvey, Illinois watching. If I bomb, I can't even go back home. The pressure, you stand behind that curtain, and I'm a calm comedian. I give motivation talks, and one of them is on self-talk, visualization. So I prepare myself for those moments. I teach young comedians how to prepare yourself for those moments. But that moment, it's just hard to describe. The pressure, they're in commercial break. The talent coordinator leaves you there alone. You're behind a curtain. She, "You okay?" You say, "I'm fine." He walks away.
The
Guy
band's
named
wailing,
Craig,
right?
Doc Severinson's wailing. And all of a sudden, when you know they're in commercial break, when the music stops, your heart stops. Because we're live now.
What
And
next?
you hear Johnny, now that all the lights come on and the curtain behind you, and you're ready to walk out, and you hear Johnny say, "We're back now. And I'm glad you're in such a good mood tonight because my next guest is making his first appearance on the Tonight Show. Will you welcome, please, Tom Dreesen?" But that one line, "I'm glad you're in such a good mood tonight." He knows it. He never does it on any other time. That first time, you walk out, you can't see the audience. The bright lights hit you. Got that first joke out, got to laugh. Got that second joke out, got to laugh. I get the third joke. Now I hear Johnny and Ed McMahon laughing behind me, and now I'm on a roll. I get 8 applause. I finish my set with saying, "You've been a wonderful audience. This is my first appearance on the Tonight Show, and show business is a tough life. So if you liked me, just if you like me, and you're Protestant, say a prayer." I said, "If you're Catholic, light a candle. If you're Jewish, somebody in your family owns a nightclub. Tell them about me." And I walk back through the curtain, and Johnny calls me back out for another bow. And I'm back there, and the coordinator comes in, he says, "Johnny wants you back." I said, "Go sit and talk to him." He said, "No, don't go talk to him. Just walk back." So I walk back out, and Johnny does that thing. Gives you that little circle.
The high sign.
And I never stopped working from that night. It was.
Oh, Tom, that's magical. Just hearing it, seeing your eyes twinkle while you tell the story.
Again, there's a thing in baseball, football, basketball, there's a thing in life called seize the moment. Seize the moment. There's a moment may come that if you're ready, and I tell young comedians all the time, what good is a break if you're not ready when the break comes? What good is a break if you're not ready when the break comes? And this was that moment. Mike Schmidt told me about he was ready to be sent back down to the minors. He wasn't hitting at all, but he came up at a certain moment. And if he seized that moment, and he hit that ball out of the park, and he's in the Hall of Fame today. But there comes, and this was my seize that moment time. If I seize this moment, my life is going to change. Mm-hmm. You ever hear that song, "Moment in Time"? I think Whitney Houston sang it first.
Sure.
When all of my dreams are a heartbeat away. That's moment in time. When all of my dreams are a heartbeat away, and the answers are all up to me. This is that moment. And it happens to comedians. It happens to athletes. It happens to everybody in life. That time is going to come when you're going to be called on, and you better be ready.
Better have your chops in order, huh?
Better, yeah. comedians never understand. You can be 6 months too soon. You can't be 6 months too late. I've seen
what a
comedians.
beautiful thing.
Well, I've seen comedians, audition when they weren't ready, and they're just in such a hurry. Because why? Because Jay is doing the Fallon show, and Jay and I started out together, and now you're panicking.
Right.
And I always tell them there's nothing noble about being superior to another human being. True nobility lies in being superior to your former self.
Oh, geez, I love this. I'm a better everyday kind of person.
Yeah. Well, but the point is, am I a better son than I was last year? Am I a better father than I was last year? Am I a better husband or wife than I was? Am I a better comedian than I was last year? That's your only competition your whole career.
And do you feel that way still to this day?
Oh, absolutely. Well, let me tell you, when I give motivation talks to comedians, which I call it the joy of stand-up comedy and how to get there. I teach comedians how to be.
The joy of stand-up comedy.
How to, why? Because 85% of all stand-up comedians I've met are insecure, neurotic, sometimes psychotic, love-starved wrecks, and the other are 15% are gifted.
Right.
Yep.
Are gifted, confident people who say, "I know how to write a joke and I know how to tell a joke," So again, that's. I forgot my point before that.
I'm bouncing all around here. I'm going to put up a picture of you and Carson while you think about it.
Well,
saw
again,
one
when I talk to young comedians, I mean that's your competition, your former self. Oh, I know what I was going to say. I say to the comedians, a lot of you out there, I stand here in front of you and I tell you I'm a success as a stand-up. And you'll say, you're a success, Tom Dreesen? You started out with Jay Leno and David Letterman, and Jay Leno and David Letterman have 250 more cars than you do, and they have $1 billion more than you do. I said, but I was never in competition with David Letterman or Jay Leno. They're my buddies. They're my pals. But I was only in competition with my former self. Have I grown in this last year? Have I grown as a comedian? Have I grown as a human being too? But as a comedian, that's your competition. Are you better than you were last year?
I feel like if you're going to grow as a person every day and be a better person every day, I feel like the other stuff just comes. I feel like your work has no choice but to change and evolve as you grow and evolve. Am I right about that, or am I?
No, you're absolutely. See, first of all, your attitude is correct. That's absolutely correct. It's you are given this. This is your vehicle. This is what I teach comedians sometimes. This is your vehicle. The pilot who flies the 747 every day from L.A. to Boston, he doesn't drive to the airport 100 miles an hour, drive out to the tarmac, slam on the brakes, run up on the aircraft, take off down the runway, and say, now where am I going? He files a flight plan, or she files a flight plan. This is your vehicle. This is the vehicle it's given you. This is your aircraft. I take a glass of water and I pour dirt in it, and I tell the class, someone drink this. And they said, no one will drink it. I said, you won't drink dirt. Why would you think dirt? If you won't ingest filth in this part of your body, why would you ingest filth in this part of your body? Negative thoughts are dirt. And positive thoughts are flowers. If you have a garden and you plant flowers and weeds grow, do you allow the weeds to grow? No, you dig up the weeds and you replant flowers. Negative thoughts swirl in our universe. They're in our mind, coming in and out of our minds. But you don't have to water them.
Right.
You don't have to let them grow. I think negative thoughts, and I'll be driving along thinking of a negative thought. I go, oh, no, cancel. I cancel it, and I replace it with a positive thought.
There it is. Have you been that way your whole life, though?
No.
Okay. When did that happen for you?
When I was in the service, I started reading a lot of books. I was in the Navy. I was on a couple aircraft carriers, and at one time we're in the Antarctic for like 66 days, and like young kids, 17, 8 years old, I'm reading all these sex novels about somebody getting laid on every other page.
Yeah.
I'm a kid.
Also, you're in a Navy ship, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's what
ship,
they had.
Yeah. But. And a guy in my ship, an old black guy named Washington, he said to me, if you're going to read so much, Tommy, why don't you read something that will grow your mind, And so he bought me the book Exodus at first, and by Leon Uris. I read that.
Oh, geez, dive right in, why don't you?
Well, but then I start reading, all these, Norman Vincent Peale, The Power of Positive Thinking, A Guide to Confident Living, Maxwell Maltz, Psycho-Cybernetics, The Magic of Believing by Claude Bristol. The book that really changed my mind, really changed my life, was The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. Whatever the mind can see and believe it will achieve. That really resonated with me, and it taught me how to envision my end result. And I tell you, this is the absolute truth. When I'm giving motivation talks, I will talk about I was sleeping in an abandoned car. The comedy team had split up. I'm out on the West Coast. My wife and kids were back in Chicago. I was house sitting, and I couldn't do that anymore. Now I'm sleeping in an old Nash Rambler. Not my car. It was up on blocks. The front seat came down in those old cars. And I hitchhiked to the Comedy Store every night, begging to work for free. And I couldn't get on at the Comedy Store. But every night before I'd go to sleep, because the book taught me this, I would envision, and the reason you do it just before you go to sleep, or when you first wake up in the morning, the way you're hypnotized is they put your conscious mind to sleep, to rest. Then they tell you hop like a rabbit. When your conscious mind is at rest, your subconscious mind is open to suggestion. And whatever the mind can see and believe it will achieve was written thousands of years ago. It's biblical in nature. Whatever the mind can see and believe. Now, you say, what was his name? Doggone it, what was his name? What the heck was his name? You just send a picture back to your subconscious mind with an emotion. Whatever the mind can see and believe. The emotion kicks that thought into gear. So you say, what was his name? 2 days later, you say, give me a cup of coffee. Mike Chisholm. Where did that come from? Once you gave that subconscious mind an image and an emotion, it starts searching all themselves, and it won't rest till it finds a solution.
Oh, I love it.
So, my point of that is, when I'm sleeping in the car, every night, I couldn't get on at the Comedy Store. I would envision Johnny Carson talking to me, saying, you're a funny guy, Tom Dreesen. You're a funny guy, Tom Dreesen. Knowing that if I was sitting there talking to Johnny, I'd already succeeded over there, because in those days, you had to do 2 or 3 shots before Johnny would let you come over and sit
couch,
down.
yeah.
So I would envision Johnny saying, you're a funny guy, Tom Dreesen. You're a funny guy. I would see it, I'd feel it, and I'd believe it. And I tell the class, I made 61 appearances on a Tonight Show, and I hold up this picture, this 8x10 of me talking to Johnny. I said, this is the picture.
I got it here.
That's right. This is the picture I imaged in my mind when I was sleeping in the abandoned car. Nothing can become a reality unless it's thought first. Nothing can become a reality. Everything you see here, these were thoughts. The glasses, these were thoughts. This computer, they were thoughts before they became realities. The same thing applies to where your station is in life. All of that, you have to work at it, but it's there for you. The answers are there for you.
Yeah.
See it, feel it, and believe it.
We subscribe to all of this fully, maybe not knowing the same names and having read the same books, but it seems like I've read a parallel to every book you just mentioned. You can't afford the luxury of a negative thought. Seems to be very similar on the purge the bad, replace with the good type of thing. The moment they creep in there, and then eventually you train yourself so that less and less creep in there, and then you're kind of just a more positive person.
Yeah, and
not that the cynicism goes away, but somehow you overwrite it.
Well, cynicism is great for a comedian. Comedians are the great cynics of all time, But again, and use that tool. But don't let it destroy you. You know how many, I've known 5 stand-up comedians who committed suicide. Good comedians.
Yeah.
Richard Jenney, did they
one of
come
my
any
favorite.
funnier than him?
No.
I had to speak. I was a master of ceremonies at his memorial service. I mean, it broke my heart. But Robin Williams, Richard Jenney, Freddie Prinze, Steve Lebetkin, the whole reason the Comedy Store strike thing, and I mean, on and on. I can name you so many more. But I've known another 20 that committed suicide through drugs and alcohol. But again, you've got this genius, and you've got this great gift to make people laugh. I could go on and on about that.
It's hard to wrangle it, though, because a lot of times, sometimes that gift gets brought to the forefront through damage and trauma and whatever else, and then sometimes people are focusing on their gift and doing the whole thing that they don't necessarily always get to. Oh, geez, I should probably do some of the work inside here a little bit, too.
Yeah.
And maybe some people, and I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but maybe it's almost the Samson theory of, well, if I fix myself, I'm not going to be funny anymore. I would imagine that's probably an inner struggle for some people.
Jerry Lewis once said when he was talking to a psychiatrist, Jerry Lewis said the psychiatrist, I did like 20 telethons. I even hosted a telethon out of Chicago.
Hi, lady. Look at these two. Hi, lady.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He once told me, he said that his psychiatrist told him that, if we get you well, you may not be able to do that anymore.
Right. Well, this is my point. I mean, does anyone really think that? I mean, that's a funny joke from Jerry Lewis, obviously, but that's probably a genuine concern.
No, he wasn't joking when he told me that, But, I suppose it's, learning how to use that tool. But, why I call it the joy of stand-up comedy and how to get there, this is the greatest profession on the planet, bar none. Not because I'm a comedian. It just is. Whenever you have a job that your service what was it, J.C. Creed? Service to humanity is the best work of life. One of the lines in the J.C. Creed, among the other great lines. By the way, the man who wrote the J.C. Creed had multiple sclerosis.
Get out of town.
Absolutely. The man who wrote, you research what I'm telling you.
Holy
His name was
smokes.
Browning, I believe. He had MS.
Weird.
He had MS, and he wrote the J.C. Creed.
I just remember, I state your name. I state your name. It was like Animal House.
I could do the whole creed for you probably if I go back in my memory here. But, why it's the greatest profession on the planet. Anytime what you do for a living is people are better off for having had your service. If they come to you and when they walk out, they're better off for having had your service. That's service to humanity, and that's the best work of life. We comedians have an opportunity. Laughter is healing. Laughter is healing. It's not a theory anymore. Norman Cousins, who was the editor of Saturday Review, wrote a book called Laughter Math, and he wrote another book called The Anatomy of an Illness. How that came about was many years ago, he was in the hospital. The doctors told him he was going to die. He had a heart condition, and they told him because of the stress in his life and all that, he developed this heart condition. He laid in his bed in the hospital, and he thought, if negative input, stress made me ill, then positive input should make me well. So he checked out of the hospital, and he would not watch the news. He'd watch only I Love Lucy reruns, Candid Camera, Three Stooges, listen to the Marx Brothers. He lived 27 years after the doctors told him he was going to die. Because of him, we've always known that laughter is psychologically a deterrent. That if the brain cannot think of two thoughts at the same time. It simply can't. So if you're watching a comedian or you're listening to a comedy record and you're laughing, you're not thinking of your problem. So it's a psychological deterrent. But because of Norman Cousins, UCLA did research on what happens to the human body when they laugh. And what happens is when you have a hearty laugh, you've laughed so hard. And tears running down your eyes.
Oh, the best.
Oh, and the sense of well-being comes over. Your body's gone through an actual chemical change. Endorphins are released from the brain into the bloodstream. So laughter is not only psychologically a deterrent, it's physiologically therapeutic.
Yes.
Therefore, comedians are physicians of the soul.
Oh, I love it.
And you can call me Dr. Dreesen if you like.
Dr. Dreesen. Try to spell it right, too.
Yeah, Dr. D-O-C-T-O-R.
Not that. Behind the scenes, I do whatever. He sent me an email. He goes, incidentally, it's Dreesen, E-N, and you're spelling it O-N. And I thought, figures. Of course it would. Of course. I respect you so much. Why wouldn't I fuck that up?
Usually they put two S's.
Can I tell you, I actually think it might have been an autocorrect thing because I put your name in three different things. This thing called you Tom Dresser.
Oh, did it really? Yeah.
Or Dressed, Tom Dressed. And then another one on YouTube, it made you Tom Dresden, which probably happens a lot, I would imagine. Did we get to how on earth you met up with Letterman? How did that all...
The first night he came to L.A. in his old red pickup truck. He came to the Comedy Store, and I happened to be doing a set that night, and I came off stage, and he complimented me in the parking lot. He said, I really enjoyed your set, Mr. Dreesen. I was like 5 years older than him, something like that. But anyhow, and me being, I don't know this guy is a very a recluse. I don't know this guy is so introverted. So I'm so eager. I'm a extrovert. I get right into it. I said, "Where you from? What's your name?" He said, "Dave." "Oh, Dave, where you from?" He said, "Indianapolis." I said, "Oh, what team? What baseball team did you root for?" I'm thinking that because there was no team in Indianapolis, I think it might be the Cubs. Because I'm a Cub fan. So he started telling me, he was a Cincinnati fan, and I kept taking it to him. Every time I'd see him, I'd take it to him. Maybe 4 months later, I realized this was a very shy guy. Had I known that, I wouldn't have taken it to him. But by that time, we're friends.
Right.
By that time,
later.
Yeah.
You're wearing him out every night.
Yeah. Every time I'd see him, I'd say, "Hey, Dave, how you doing, Dave? Tell me about your life, Dave." Ball State, no kidding. So, what was your major?
This happens to us all the time.
So I kept taking it to him, and we became the best of friends. I mean, we played racquetball together. We played basketball together.
Oh, wow.
And now I'll tell you a real funny story that I've told before, but about 6 months ago, he calls me. He said, "Tom, every time you do an interview or I do an interview, they always ask, how did you guys meet?" And
shit.
I said, "You tell the same story."
Here we go.
I said, we tell the same story that I pulled up in the first night in Los Angeles and how we met. You came off stage. I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, it's a boring story." I said, "Well, it's the truth." He said, "I don't care. It's boring." He said, "From now on, you tell people that the first night we met, you came off stage at the Comedy Store, and I was in a parking lot, and I stole some material from you, and you beat the shit out of me in the parking lot."
Yep.
Yeah. So
Son of a bitch. The Letterman.
Yeah. I said, You probably know the story. Have you?
No.
I said, I said, Dave, now why would I tell a story like that? He said, because it's a better story. I said, you got 32 million fans who'll be chasing me through the airport. He said, I don't care. It's a better story. Now, 3 weeks go by. I get a call from Dave. He said, Tom, do you know the governor of Illinois? And I said, no, I met him, but I don't know him. He said, well, my wife, Regina, has a friend in Chicago, and her son is autistic. He's an adult, and the autistic adults in this area, they plant corn, beans, and tomatoes, and when it comes into fruition, they give it to the homeless. Wow. And now the state's going to come and take that property away for some reason. And he said, I'd like to talk to the governor. I said, gee, I know the Senate Majority Leader, a guy named John Cullerton, is a friend of mine. He said, okay. He said, I said, let me call him. I called John. John said, oh, Tom, don't worry about it. Tell Dave not to worry. We're taking care of that. I said, John, he was naming some statute or something. I said, John, could you explain it to Dave? Because you explained it better than me. If I give Dave your number. He said, yeah, he's okay. I said, oh, John, by the way, when you help Dave, tell him the reason you're helping him is because Dreesen beat the shit out of him in the parking lot
comedy club.
at the comedy store. He said, okay. Now, 10 minutes go by. My phone rings. I know it's Dave. I said, hello. He said, didn't I tell you that's a better story? I told you that's a better story. You know.
Hilarious. Did he know you leaked it to him?
Yeah, he's, we've had so much fun through the years. We went to Iraq together and we performed for the troops.
You did?
Yeah.
She went to Iraq with Leno.
Oh, did you?
Oh, Afghanistan. That's right. Sorry.
Oh,
Shit, that's not the same
yeah,
thing, is
yeah.
it? Sorry.
Well,
They're both war areas at the times,
yeah.
and I went with another comedian.
Yes, you did.
I mean,
Is Jay amazing? Or what Jay can do 2.5 hours on stage. 2.5. I mean, I've never seen anybody that prolific in my life. He could just go on and on and on, and with solid material.
I don't know how he remembers it all. Supposedly he never had a drink of alcohol. Maybe that's part of it. Never done a drug, so he's pretty sharp up there.
He said to me one time, I had an old beat up Chevy, and I pulled up in front of the Improv. I said, Jay, something's on my car. And he's telling me what's on. He lifted up the hood. He said, I think it's your linkage. And I said, what's a linkage? He said, he calls me pussies. You big pussy. You don't know what a linkage is. You big pussy. You don't know what a linkage is. I said, I don't know what a linkage is. I'm a pussy. I said, you don't know who Mickey Mantle is, and I'm a pussy. He said, well, next time your car breaks down, call Mickey Mantle.
7 digits to a phone number. He was number 7. Yeah, it's almost. That's pretty funny. That's pretty funny.
We all sat out together. I'm on stage every night with all these new comedians at the Comedy Store back in '75. Jay Leno, David Letterman, Robin Williams, Gallagher, Michael Keaton.
My God. Oh my God.
Deborah Winger was waiting tables, and
Gee whiz.
Yeah, I always say, whatever happened to those guys? But I'm on your show right now. I don't know where they're at.
Thank you. That's right.
It's all downhill from here, pal.
I'm so grateful that you came over here to do it. I mean, I guess the landscape has changed a little bit in that since COVID, everyone kind of does their own little show out of their house and a podcast or whatever. But could you, at any point in your career, have ever said, "Yeah, I'm going to go to these people's dining room in the next town over"? And I've worked with Sinatra for years and all that, but now I'm going to go do a dining room in Toluca Lake.
But you know what? The podcast thing, 10 years ago or more, somebody said to me, you should do a podcast, Tom. And I thought, podcast? What the hell's a podcast? And then along came Joe Rogan. Guess what happened?
If somebody helped you do it, would you do it? Like if somebody helped you do it,
I don't
would you
know.
then sit and do it?
I think I might. To be honest with you, I know this sounds egotistical, and I don't mean it this way, but I'm a much better guest than I am a host. I know great stories. I know how to tell a story, and I know what I've done. So many of these shows, over 500 appearances on national television. I know what you're looking for. I know the stories and stuff like that.
I walked right into this place. I could sniff you out in a heartbeat.
No, but I could do this. I almost would like to do more motivation and some comedy.
It could be a motivational podcast.
Yeah.
That's my point. It could be anything you want. It's your voice. You get to choose what you say.
Yeah, but I probably could. I could probably do it
Before my time with Tom Dreesen.
Yeah. Well, what I did a while back. During the COVID, I do a one-man show around the country called The Man Who Made Sinatra Laugh. It's stand-up comedy.
That's beautiful.
A screen comes down to theaters, and Dennis Farina, God rest his soul, narrates my life. And it's about 3 minutes of my life. Then I come out and I do stand-up comedy for about a half an hour. Then I segue over to a bar on the stage. And I tell a funny story at the bar. And all the lights go out in the theater while they're laughing. And on the screen, Frank Sinatra starts singing, "It's 2:45. There's no one in the place except you and me. It's like he's talking to me, and I'm at the bar. Set him up, Joe. And he gets to the chorus, make it one for my baby and one more for the road. He goes off screen, and now a spotlight hits me, and I'm in a bar, and the audience is in a bar with me, and I've come home. And I tell him the first time I heard that voice, I was 10 years old, shining shoes in a bar on the south side of Chicago, and he was on the jukebox. And then I take the audience from that little boy hearing Sinatra on the jukebox on the south side of Chicago to one day carrying his coffin out of a church in Beverly Hills, California. So I take them on that journey. And while I'm telling stories, pictures are coming on the screen authenticating the story, as well as video of Frank and I. And it's about Tim and Tom.
Sure.
It's about my service years, Tim and Tom. I take them on my journey that we all have. All comedians have that journey, But I through the years, I would, every time something poignant or funny happened, I would go back and journal it. I would write it down and whether we're on the road or off. And I've turned that into a one-man show now, So anyhow, during the COVID, I did that from my home for people. They pay $25, and I did that. But what I did basically was I had them send in everybody that I could get on social media. Send me a question. Ask me any question you want to ask me about Johnny Carson, about Frank Sinatra, I toured with Sammy Davis for years. I toured with Natalie Cole, Gladys Knight and the Pips, Tony Orlando and Don, blah, blah, blah. I've toured with...
There's a picture of you and Sammy.
Yeah.
We just watched the Cannonball Run the other day. I love Sammy.
He took me to Vegas my very first time, at the Caesar's Palace. It was great.
Sammy took you to Caesar's your first time?
First time I ever worked Vegas.
Way to be introduced to the frickin' joint. Holy crap.
You know what happened? He had a TV show called Sammy and Company.
Mm-hmm. And a sketch show.
A TV show, yeah, a talk show. And I wanted to do that show. At that time, my agent at William Morris, her name was Debbie Miller. I said, Debbie, get me on the Sammy and Company show. She couldn't get me on the show. She said, Tom, you're doing all the talk shows. Why do you? I said, I saw him perform in Chicago at the Black Expo, and he did something that I couldn't believe. It was the most moving to this day, and I talk about it in my one-man show. It's the single greatest performance I ever saw. And all my years in show business, So I wanted to meet him. She gets me on that show finally. I go on there, and I did a whole routine about growing up in a black neighborhood, playing basketball on an all-black basketball team, playing football on an all-black football team. I did those routines, and Sammy just fell apart laughing. He said to me on the air, I'm going to take you on the road with me, and he took me on the road with him for 3 years. And took me to Vegas my very first time,
Was that your introduction to the Rat Pack?
Yeah,
that was how you got in?
That was the beginning. And Sammy would tell me all the stories about how much he loved Dean and Frank,
Yeah.
And then later I did the Dean Martin roast, and I got to know Dean. I played golf with Dean, and I did some shows with him, private shows, and really loved him. And then by accident, Frank. I'm working with Smokey Robinson at Caesars one time in Lake Tahoe. Frank Sinatra's appearing next door at Harrah's. I'd always been a Frank Sinatra fan, so now again, fate. 7 days that we're there at Caesars, I could have went any night to see Frank. I don't know why I picked this night, but one night I said, I'm going to go tonight. I called the people at Harrah's because I had worked there many times. I asked the maitre d', I'm coming in. He said, don't worry, Tom, we will take care of you. When I came off stage, I didn't even change out of my stage clothes. I bolted out the side door of Caesars. If you know Tahoe, Harrah's is one casino over.
Yeah.
So I was running into the showroom, and the vice president of Harrah's Hotel, a man named Holmes Hendrickson, very powerful guy, was talking to a big heavyset guy with a cigar. And I'm rushing in there because I didn't want to miss Frank's opening. Frank Sinatra created more excitement walking to the microphone than most people did with their whole act. When he walked out on stage, and I'd seen him perform, I mean, the place was electric, but yeah. And so I didn't want to miss that opening. I'm running in the show, and Holmes Henry said, Tommy, come here. And I reluctantly went over, and he said, Tommy, this is Mickey Rudin. Well, I recognized the name. That was Frank Sinatra's lawyer. Real powerful guy. He said, Mickey, this is Tom Dreesen, and I think Tom would make a great opening act for Frank. And meanwhile, the lawyer gets a pained expression on his face like he heard that a million times.
Sure.
But he winked at the vice president, and I caught the wink. He said to me, hey, kid, if I gave you a week with Frank, would you want more than $50,000? I said, Mr. Rudin, put it this way. If you gave me a week with Frank, would you want more than $50,000? He said, oh,
I'm willing to do it for
he
whatever.
said, I like this kid. The guy made him laugh.
Yes.
Being glib at the right time. A week later, they call me about do 1 week with Frank at the Golden Nugget in Atlantic City. I figured, I'll do 1 week with him. I'll try to get my picture taken with him and hang it in every bar back in my neighborhood where I shine
I'll
shoes.
eat on this for life.
Yeah, just one picture. The second night I was with him, he and his wife Barbara took me out to dinner, and I can remember like it was yesterday. He set his knife and his fork down, and he was eating, and I was sitting across from him. He said, I like your material, and I like your style. I'd like you to do a few other dates with me. if you're interested. And I didn't say, let me check my calendar. I said, yeah. And it turned into 14 years, 45, 50 cities a year. I miss him every day of my life. I was a pallbearer at his funeral, and I spoke at his funeral. And he taught me so many things. He was such an incredible star, beyond stardom. He was when you think about this career of this man, 60 years he was a star. Most people are stars 5 years, 10 years, 7 years, 15 years. 60 years. He sold out 20,000 seat arenas everywhere we went. 40,000 seats in Hawaii. I'd open up in front of 40,000 people, and it was just not
The Aloha Bowl or something?
Oh God,
Gee
no!
whiz.
It was outdoors with big screens
of
and
course,
everything,
yeah.
and the arenas. In 1978, he sold out in Japan, 20,000 seats. What English singer do you know that sings English language sells out in Argentina, in Japan?
I can't think of a live performer that you could ever even equate to today or in modern times. But is there any type of that cache of celebrity that we could even compare it to? I mean, my dad, Frank and Johnny. It was Frank and Johnny. If you want music, it's Frank. If you want comedy, it's Johnny.
Yeah.
I can't think of anybody. I mean, George Clooney, maybe
Well,
just from the sex
not
symbol
today.
dumb,
All
but
I
like
think of is
it's not
Clooney
the same
and
thing.
Taylor Swift, but it's not the same at all.
Yeah,
Not
I go
the same.
Clooney just because of the
By the
Ocean's
way,
11
but-
thing.
Yeah, by the way, Frank won the Academy Award, and From Here to Eternity. He also won the Academy Award for a thing called The House I Live In. One of the songs that when he sang that in concert, it would make your hair stand and they give you chills the way he lit up that audience with that song, about America. He was in Brazil one time. He sold out 175,000 seats, way before I knew him. No single artist has ever done that. Now, Elvis never went overseas. And the reason Elvis didn't go overseas was because Colonel Tom Parker didn't have a passport. He was illegally.
on.
No, he was illegally into this country. If Parker knows if he goes over there, Elvis would have sold arenas out there. He knows if he goes over there that he can't come back.
Come back,
He wouldn't be
yeah.
able to come back in the country.
Holy crap, I never knew that. I thought you were going to say something because of the war, because Elvis was in the war, too. I don't know if you know. Wow. Good grief.
Yeah.
All right, I'm glad I didn't do much research. I'm learning so much. All right, so I have another picture here. Not only have you guested on Letterman so many times, but, there was also a time where you sat behind the desk.
Oh, I hosted, yeah.
Yeah, what was that all about?
Oh, David
Didn't
had
happen very often.
David had the shingles. And so whenever I saw him after that, I'd say, you don't look so good. You need to take some time off. That was so exciting for me to host this show.
Yes,
But
tell me about it.
I walked out on that show. I remember what I did. I walked out and I said, a woman. Well, first of all, the big introduction and welcome Tom Dreesen, and I walked out and people were applauding real nice, and I said, tell the truth. How many of you in the audience were still hoping Dave was going to walk out? First joke was on me, right? Then I said, coming in, a woman outside, as I got out of the limo coming inside, she grabbed me and she said, I'm your biggest fan. You're one of my favorite entertainers. Could I get a picture with you? And I said, yes. She said, Harold, hurry, come quick. It's Regis Philbin.
Oh, jeez. All over there. Could happen at any time. Regis was there all the time.
Those are my opening lines.
That's hilarious.
That's another thing. An old vaudevillian many years told me, when you go on stage, Tommy, he said, in those days, he said, the first two jokes are on you. First two jokes are on you.
Let them see you don't take yourself too seriously? Is that what it is?
Yeah, because right away they see you out there. The audience sees you out there, and this guy, they wish they could do what you do. Maybe you're dressed well or whatever it is, but you come on and say, I'm just like you. I'm every man. I pay taxes. I've got heartaches. I've got broken romances. Whatever it is. I'm
Level
just
the
like
playing
you.
field.
Yeah. When you're writing a joke, there's two things. Number one, comedy is 9/10 surprise. The audience laughs because they didn't think you were going to say that. So the setup line has to hide the punchline. And the other rule is there are no victimless jokes. Who's the victim in this show? You, me, society, the government, the
Gotta be
airlines.
something, yeah.
Somebody got to be wrong in this joke. The punk rocker my daughter's dating. Somebody got to be wrong. One night at the Bob Hope Classic, I played in the Bob Hope Classic for like 30 years, and I emceed it when Bob couldn't do it anymore. I performed at the big Black Tie Affair every year. The first year I play in the Bob Hope Classic, I'm an ex-caddy, that he invited me to play in the Bob Hope Classic. I get there, and there's like thousands of people there. I'm going to play with Arnold Palmer. Every
It's like a pro-am, a celebrity and a pro.
Celebrity and a pro, and two amateurs. So when I go on the first tee, I'd only done a couple Tonight shows. Bob Hope saw me, and I made him laugh, and he invited me. So now I go on the first scene. I'm really nervous, and I'm the celebrity in the group. And one of the amateurs comes up. It's a car dealer from Detroit. He said, "Hi." He said, "Hi, I'm Hoot McInerney." I said, "Hey, Hoot, my name is Tom Dreesen." Yeah, that was his name, Hoot He owned 22 car dealerships in Michigan, Hoot McInerney. He said, "Hey, I'm Hoot McInerney." I said, "Hey, Hoot, I'm Tom Dreesen." He said, "Nice to meet you, Tom. Sure hope we get a good celebrity. Last year we got some guy I never heard of."
Oh, jeez.
Now,
Thanks a lot.
that night at the ball, I told that story, and the audience loved it, because the joke is on me,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh, gosh. I love it. But so what was it like sitting there at the desk and doing all of that? I mean, you did your monologue, you're describing that, but you already know how to do. I would imagine the monologue you're already familiar with. You already do stand up. Like, what about sitting behind the desk and doing the hosting?
But I also had hosted shows of my own. I mean, I'm in Chicago. I had a show for a week that they were trying out that I could have had a late night talk show out of Chicago.
Oh.
I've done that kind of thing.
See, I could see you doing that. Is it just no interest in that? Is that all?
They one time I was supposed to host the Tonight Show, guest host.
Yeah.
And a guy a guy told Johnny Carson a lie about me. It was not true. What happened was, after I did about 7 Tonight Shows, Peter LaSalle called my manager, and he said, "We're interested in Tom being a guest host." And my manager told me, now, wow, I was so excited. Like an idiot, I rushed to go to the Comedy Store at night. Next door to the Comedy Store was a Continental Hyatt house where all the guys would sit in the restaurant there. And I see this guy, he was managing Doc Severinsen, and a friend of mine, Johnny Dark, who... This guy was managing Johnny as well, and I get all excited. And I said, "Hey, they just told me I might be hosting the Tonight Show." He goes and tells Johnny that Dreesen was out there bragging that he was going to take your place, and that I found that out years later. I never said that. I didn't say that. And I talked to Johnny about that too later.
You did?
After he retired, I told him, I never said that. He said, he said, "Tommy, you were a great guy. You always came prepared." I don't know if he did or he didn't, but it didn't matter. But I just believe there's a master plan for everybody. I'm where I'm supposed to be.
Amen.
I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be.
Yep.
Everywhere you went, people touched my life, really touched my life greatly, and altered the course of my life. And I hope that I've done that for others too. So I think we're put here for that reason, So you can't. In other words. I'm not an alcoholic, but I quit drinking many years ago. I used to drink a lot, man.
Same here. Both of us, yeah. None of us are, yeah.
No,
not in the program or anything, but we both quit a long time ago because that was enough.
But they have the greatest prayer. God grant me the serenity to change the things to change things I can change, accept the things I can't, and the serenity to know the difference between the two or something. Every time I start to think about my life, I think about doing something, I say, wait a minute, I can't change that. There's certain things I just can't change. So why would I waste energy dwelling upon something I can't change?
Yeah, it's the negative thought thing again.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Ugh, God, you're so inspirational. You should give speeches.
I should become a comedian.
Yeah, you should talk to people for a living for sure.
By the way, I did the main room in a Comedy Store last week, and trying out new material, and Bill Burr followed me, and we talked backstage, and I went to watch him. I watched his set. Man, is he good? Man, is he good?
So good.
Oh, he challenges everybody. See, I came in a different time. I know I know every dirty joke there ever was or ever will be, and I can do a stag roast with the best of them. But when I started out, you had to get on the Tonight Show. You couldn't say go to hell.
Right.
There wasn't cable television.
Right.
So we're in show business. That's 2 words: show and business. So the business side of you said, well, how do I get on the Tonight Show? And you watch those comedians. They had the right material that can make grandma and grandpa, mom and dad, and the kids laugh. And otherwise you couldn't get on the show.
Yeah.
I'm at the Laugh Factory one night, and there's 2 young comedians around the corner. They didn't know I was there. I was looking at my notes. I was getting ready to go on, and I hear them talking. One of them said, Tom Dreesen's here. Well, my ears perked up. And then, listen, the other one said, yeah, he's old school, And the other comedian said, he's old school. What do you mean? He said, well, he doesn't use the F word. The other comedian said, he doesn't use the F word. What does he use for adjectives? And I stuck my head around the corner. I stuck my head around the corner, and I said, adjectives.
Hilarious.
That's what I use for adjectives. But again, I'm watching Bill, and he's just and then fucking this and then fucking assholes, but everything is in place, and it's funny, and he challenges them all. The woke generation, the politically correct, please, they stick it into your ear, and he goes at them.
if you're supposed to develop who you really are on stage, get the person off stage, on stage, he's a guy who's got it. I mean, that guy is Bill Burr. That's the guy from Massachusetts that grew up hating everything, who's just telling everybody else now.
And by the way, that's another thing I tell new comedians. I say, when you start out in show business as comedians, you start out, and I've been saying this for 40 years, you start out emulating another comedian. We all do that because we know that worked. So when you first get on stage, when you're new, I can look at a new comedian and say, oh, he likes George Carlin, or he likes Dave Letterman, or he likes Jay Leno. Or I can watch the way they work.
What their influences
when they're
are.
brand new. I'm in an open mic night. But as time goes by, you're doing an impression of a comedian. And one night, you let a little bit of you out. And if it doesn't get a laugh, you pull back in and you keep doing that impression of a stand-up comedian. But then one night, you let a little bit of you out and gets a laugh. And pretty soon, you let a little bit more of you out. And pretty soon, a little bit more. And pretty soon, you become you. Candid Camera had the greatest line, caught in the act of being yourself. Huh. It was just a line they had, caught in the act of being yourself. When that day comes, when you start becoming you on stage, that's when you begin to grow as a comedian. You know, you're no longer... And I tell young comedians all the time, there's no one like you ever been on this planet. No one's had your same mom and dad, your same upbringing, your same siblings, whatever. You're unique as a snowflake. So when you walk out on stage, don't be afraid to be you, because there's never been one like you. There are some comedians that have a stage persona. Mm-hmm. Then you meet them off stage and you can't believe it's the same person.
Yep.
You know, my friend Dave Letterman. Dave had a great stage persona. It's okay. But you met him, he was very shy. When we see him on stage, you think, man, this guy's gonna, he challenges everything and everybody. But he's not that way in person.
Yeah.
He's very understanding and.
Yes, he is. Also. Very much so. Yeah. At least for me. I don't know how much you know about my history, but I met him I grew up in the same town. You asked where I lived. I lived in the same town he did in Connecticut.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, for a spell there. So when I was in high school, I was one of those problematic kids who showed up and gave him a microphone and all that crazy crap. So I was one of those kids.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Did he ever come back at you for
No, the story. If you don't know the story, I can't believe nobody's told you. But when I was a kid, I snuck into the Ed Sullivan Theater and I stole this microphone one night. Not intentionally. My dad had just died and I was a mess. And I went down there for something else, and they let me in the theater. And then everybody went home, and then here I was, and I found this thing on this. So whatever. And then he talked about it on the show the next night, and then I felt like shit. And then I went back to his house a couple days later and gave him a different microphone that I used on my little high school show here, and gave it to him at his house, at the Connecticut house that you probably have been to, I'm guessing, in the old days. Yeah. So the driveway all the way up into the back and everything. So I was there and in the screen porch, and I'm handing him, Mr. Letterman, I got the microphone. I was a fresh 18 years old, very immature 18, and I'm handing him this microphone that he won't take. I'm not going to take. I can't accept this gift from you, you stupid kid. And eventually I get him to take it, and then he took it, and then that's the microphone that you're sitting in front of in this picture I showed of you at the desk. That's the one I gave him. I made that for my high school show when I was a kid.
Kidding.
I swear to God, and this is his. Yeah.
I'll be darned.
Yeah.
I'll be darned.
So he was very understanding, because I'm pretty sure they probably had plenty of footage of me walking around the Ed Sullivan Theater 2 nights before. So I'm pretty sure he knew exactly who I was and what I had done, and he didn't ruin my life over it as a little kid.
But by the way, because he would have done the same thing. When he was at the station, I mean, he was always pulling pranks. Even when he was in college, he had a little radio show.
Yeah.
And he was always pulling pranks. The station they had that he was a weatherman, at the end of in those days, television ended around midnight.
Yeah.
They'd play the national anthem. David one time they had a model of the station, and they would play the national anthem. And when they got to David put like firecrackers and stuff in there. When they went, and the bombs bursting in there, it blew up the whole model studio thing, blew the whole thing up. And so David was that kind of guy,
Oh, all right. Well, yeah. A little mischievous then.
I remember one night at the Comedy Store, he was brand new, and Ringo Starr at that time, the Beatles had broken up, and Ringo was drinking a lot. He later went on the program, but Ringo was drunk, and he was in the press, all of the press, but that he was drinking too much and all that kind of stuff. So anyhow, Dave's on stage working, and he's getting heckled in the back. Hey, and pretty soon Dave starts going after this guy and, really ripping him a new one, because David was great with hecklers. But one of the comics came
Laser
up.
focus.
Yeah, one of the comics, I don't know if it was Jeff Altman, one of the comics came up and said to him, Dave, that's Ringo Starr. And Dave said,
The heckler?
yeah, the heckler was Ringo Starr. Dave said, oh, great. "Oh, that's great." He said, "You fucked up your career and you came here tonight to fuck up mine."
That's hilarious. And then he would go take over that theater and the whole bit. The rest of the history,
Oh,
hilarious,
yeah.
hilarious.
David was great to watch. He never thought of himself as a stand-up comedian. And he
I don't think of him as one either.
he's a broadcaster.
Yeah, that's what I see,
And one of the
100%.
best, yeah. But he did go do stand-up, and I got him a gig with Tony Orlando one time, and then
What?
he also opened for Helen Reddy, and he would come back and listen to his tapes, but he wasn't comfortable. He wasn't comfortable. I love watching him work, but I noticed he was never comfortable on a nightclub stage. I feel like I belong there for some reason. That's where I belong. But I went to watch Dave the first night he guest hosted the Tonight Show, and I watched him walk out into that studio and went, "Oh shit, he's home.
That's where he's
he
home.
belongs there."
Yeah.
Because he cut his teeth in the television studio.
And I think that was always his vision. You had that vision of you sitting there talking to Johnny. You're a great comedian, Tom, or whatever. I think he probably had that. He built that future for himself.
You
and
don't
that's
think
all
that?
there was.
That's the truth. Let me
Yeah.
tell you what he told me. He said, as a little boy, he had like these tools, little toy tools, and he used to watch Steve Allen, and he'd watch Ernie Kovacs, who had a talk show, and Dave built himself a microphone like they had as a little boy. And the reason I bring this up, yeah, the reason I bring it up is one time I was talking to him, and he had been doing it like 22 years, hosting his show, and he was getting tired. I mean, it was the grind every night. And he said, he was saying to me on the phone, something like, this isn't all it's up to be, and it's a lot of work. I said, there's a great African proverb that says, sometimes the gods punish you, sometimes the gods answer your prayers for punishment.
Oh, hilarious.
He
He
said
did everything you want.
He said, repeat that to me. I said, sometimes the gods answer your prayers for punishment. As a little boy, you built that little microphone as a little boy, and now you're mimicking those guys, and now you're one of those guys. God's answered your prayers for punishment.
What happens to me? I stole it, then gave the wrong thing. I did the old switcheroo.
I think that's great. I think that's a great story.
So,
I'm dying to
the
talk to Dave. I want to tell him.
Please do, because we've been trying through his people and whatever, trying to get some sort of something, because we would love to. All right, so 5 years ago, whatever, her life went to hell, our life imploded, everything happened, and this has always been on the shelf with a little, like a neat story, but a lot of shame and whatever from that, something that had never been unpacked up here. And we decided, all right, we got to figure out a way to at least offer it back to him in case in case it actually meant something or whatever. And once we decided to do that, once I decided to let go of this thing as a trinket, as a whatever, and decide to sort of write history, the museum that had this desk and chairs reached out and go like, hey, do you need this desk and chairs? Because we're looking to make a new home for him. This is literally the microphone I would have, this is...
This is fantastic.
We're of the same tribe where things happen for a reason. We're on this ride, and quite frankly, lately they've been unfolding way better than we ever could have imagined, but based on a lot of hard-ass work.
Yeah.
So I think what you were talking about before, about being out there, doing the road, being ready for your moment, I don't think there's ever a time where I was, and I think I'm ready. So thanks for being here.
Well, I'm happy to be here. This was a great night.
Isn't that a great night? Celebrate, everybody.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you have coming up that we want to plug? Do you have any dates, any charity events?
Oh, yeah, my book's still standing, of course. You
book?
can get it on Amazon, and it's my journey from streets and saloons to the stage and Sinatra. And the book has got over 400 5-star reviews now on Amazon, so it's doing real good. And they're making a documentary on my life because of that book, the documentary. Yeah, a lot of things are happening. And I'm going on the road. I'm in Chicago doing my one-man show. I'm going in Atlantic City in August at the Ocean View Hotel doing my one-man show, but I'm also doing it in Chicago on September 10th at the John Belushi Theater outside of Chicago and Glen Ellen, and a lot of other things. I've just got so much going on.
People, you're on social media, but do you are you actively on social media?
I'm one of the worst at that. I try. I'm so dumb. I get my daughters to help me. They put me on Facebook. I said, "Oh, great! This is years ago. It maxes out at 5,000."
Yep.
I said, "Well, why did they said, "Oh, Dad, we put you on the wrong thing. We should put you on the unlimited." They put me on another Facebook page. That maxed out at 5,000. Now I got 2 of those.
Oh,
and
jeez.
then I can't. Now Facebook's accusing me of not knowing these people. Then I got some people at Facebook try to help me. Then I get another one. It's like 13,000 people on it, but I still got the other ones. I'm so screwed up. Now my daughter's bailed out, and I'm at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning. No, I wasn't wearing a red shirt that night.
Yeah, that wasn't me.
I'm answering these, but I try. I'm not good at it.
But on Instagram, you're Tom Dreesen Comic, right? I
Yeah.
think so.
No, Twitter.
Both maybe.
Yeah, Tom Dreesen Comic, yeah.
They might have started doing Instagram too.
I don't know.
Because I think I follow you there as
But
well.
you can go to my website, tomdreesen.com.
There it is.
That's my website.
Yes, and it's 3 E's in Dreesen.
Yes.
All where you would think they would be.
Thank you.
No O's. Let's see. Tomorrow we're going to a new neurologist. That's what we're doing tomorrow. Thursday we are back in here with a guest who is TBD. The one, Sean Bishop, was going to be here, but he was exposed to COVID. Now it's going to be one of 2 other people. We'll figure it out. Back on Thursday, Friday, GVBC. I love you. Tom Dreesen, we both love you.
Well, and I love you too. I really do. I'm so honored to be with you. I really am. I'm so honored by your attitude and your sense of humor, and believe with all your heart and soul. Something's out there. You're here for a reason, and it ain't over. It ain't over. There's an old thing that guy said to God, Master, is everything that I'm supposed to do in life. I'm paraphrasing, but have I done everything I'm supposed to do? And God said, if you're still breathing, the answer is no. So as long as we're breathing.
People say all the time, "Oh, we give you so much credit for doing this every day," and it's like we just look at them back and like, what the frig is the alternative to not?
Yeah.
If we wake up, here we are. We're doing it again.
Yeah. Well, you're inspirational, and that's I guess that's what it's all about, isn't it? Emerson said, "You lived a good life if you leave this world better than you found it."
That's the goal.
Amen.
That's the goal. Thank you, Tom Dreesen.
You're welcome.
I hope this is the one, first of many. I hope you'll come back. I know locally. I hope that. I hope this wasn't too bad for you. I hope you'll come back.
This was awful. I'll never do this. No, I really enjoyed
The
it.
host has got to work on his chops, but other than that, all right, Canadian Mike up there. Anything left from you? I know you've already had your talk with Tom Dreesen, but anything from today?
Ever since meeting Tom, I say it's like meeting your very favorite uncle for the very first time. Sorry, Uncle Gary. I met Uncle Tom. He's phenomenal. Tom, I just love you, man.
Thank you, Mike.
That's awesome. All right, we love everybody at home. Have a great week. Not a great weekend. See you in a couple of days. Whatever. Have a great night. Love y'all.
This was a lot of fun. And
Yes, please go for it.